dear colleagues, dear friends. It is really great honor to be here today with you. And I would like to express my gratitude to the organizers of this scientific conference for inviting me and to having me here in Budapest on this conference. The presenter is here. The topic of my presentation is the impact of migrations on the demographic and religious landscape of Central European countries, legal perspectives. So I will have to deal with demography. That is a tough topic for European societies. We have heard this morning that there was a separate research group dealing with the demography. So my focus was on the intersections between demography and migration, and I will give you first few information only or few let's say terminological definitions that regarding demography and migrations. Also, Professor Wiels this morning gave some information on what migrants and migration should be and could be actually, and how they can. How we can explain them. So demography is widely regarded as the study of human populations. It is usually divided in two traditions. The first one is formal demography, which is concerned with the mathematical modeling of the population processes such as births, deaths, and migration. And social demography, which examines the determinants and consequences of population size, distribution and composition of demographic processes of fertility, mortality, and migration, and determine them. Demography plays a crucial role, of course, in shaping social policies, managing populations, and regulating migrations. As such, findings of demographic research can serve as a strong foundation for the development and understanding of both domestic and international migration laws and regulations. From the other side, defining migrants and migration can be challenging. There are some exact sciences like statistics, and from a statistical perspective, migration refers to the relocation of individuals with the intention of establishing permanent residency in a new location. So this is very wide, broad definition of migration. At the international level, there is no universally agreed upon definition of migrant. There are two general approaches, actually, to define migrant. The first one is inclusivist approach. It means that it is actually over-inclusive approach or over-inclusive definition. That migrants are individuals who have moved from their usual place of residence regardless of their legal status and motivation for moving. It means that everyone who moves from one place to the other is actually migrant, and migration is every move from one place to another. This broad definition includes refugees, foreign workers, trafficking victims, trailing spouses, international students, so here students are migrants actually, international students, and other individuals falling under various categories. On the other hand, the residualist view defines migrants as people who have relocated for any reason other than fleeing war or persecution, making them a diverse category of individuals who share the characteristic of not being refugees. The International Organization for Migration defines migration as the movement of a person, of a group of persons, either across an international border or within a state. So all those definitions I gave them because when I will speak about migration in the rest of my paper and in my presentation, I want you to understand that I'm speaking about all those kind of migrations. And it can be some examples of type of human migration, include internal migration and international migration, forced migration, economic migration, Environmental migration, that is very popular, probably will be a problem in the years to come. Seasonal migration, and so on and so forth. So here you have two pictures that actually are connected with something that Professor Stanisic mentioned this morning. Borders between, actually Italy has suspended the Schengen regime between Slovenia and Italy. But those, historically, there were attempts to stop migrations, or at least to reduce migrations with walls. And these are two examples. Actually, this is the Roman limes in Germany that was built. Those are fortifications that were built to stop, or actually to prevent Germans to enter Roman Empire. And you can imagine how it ended up. And from the other side, you can see the great Chinese wall that was built for the same purpose, to control migrations, immigrations, and emigration from China. And the argument that you will hear usually from those who support migration is that those projects failed. But if you read the history, actually, you will see that they didn't fail. If you consider the Chinese wall, it was in use for more than 1,500 years. So if something works for 1,500 years, it's difficult to say that it failed. Okay, maybe failed that the final outcome was not what those who built this wall initially wanted. But anyway, in the case of Roman fortification, it was not so. This is, of course, not the real wall. This is how it the restoration in Germany, but it was not so huge and imposant as it is the case with Chinese wall. Here is, let's say, our empire, not Chinese or Roman Empire, but Europe. And as you can see, declining, the total population of Europe is declining, and it is expected that Europe will lose 11% of its population by 2050, and in the same period, the rest of the world will gain 32% of population. So there is a difference in the tendencies in Europe and in the rest of the world. Here you can see what is a natural population change. I'm sorry that numbers are not so visible, probably from the back of the conference hall. But you can see natural population change is what actually is our fertility rate. So how many children do we have, and the growth of the population. And you can see that in most of European countries there is a minus until during this century, until the end of this century. So they will lose population. But the only actually contributor to the population growth will be migration. And you can see if we calculate the migration at the levels that we have nowadays, then the situation changes. Of course, we do not know what will happen during the century. So maybe in 10 years we will accept 100 million or millions of refugees. I don't know. But if the current situation will be preserved for 1 century, so we can see what will be the impact of migration on European population. Here, Europe is not an isolated island surrounded by oceans and seas. Actually, it is surrounded by the regions with highest growth of population in the world. So, for example, North Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, and the Middle East. You can see there what will be the percentage of world population of Europe and Africa by the 2050. So it is probable that if we want to increase the population or to increase the growth of population actually in Europe, it can be achieved only by enlargement of the EU, if we are talking about EU, or if we are talking about the whole continent, there is only way, that is natural demography. The other ways is to import migrants that are not Europeans. So we do not have any other migrants in Europe that we can bring, or let's say Europeans that will return actually to Europe. Here, so one of the theses that, or hypotheses actually that you can find in the literature is that we need migration just to increase the total population of EU and of the whole continent. But actually, if you take into account those projections, like here, you will see that even when you account migration at the level that we have now, the situation won't be much better. So the total population of Europe will continue to decline even with the migration included or in those projections. The other problem that we are facing is aging. You have probably heard about it. So the shift in population structure towards older ages is projected to continue during the century. And there is only one way to reverse this process, and that is to return the birth rates to the so-called replacement levels. But even if we achieve that nowadays, the first effects we will see in 20 years, probably. In short and medium terms, aging is inevitable, and that's something that we will have to live with in the decades to come. So there are suggestions that actually migration can resolve this problem. So if we call in young migrants, then this structure will change. However, demographers proved that actually this is not going to happen. Why? Because when you have migrants, young migrants, in 30 years, they will be one of those who need other people to take care of them. So in 30 or 40 years, actually, they will be in the same situation that our elders are now, so they need someone to take care of them. So this is so-called spiral by which aging of migrants actually can only be offset by more migrants to be called in. That's the reason why demographers believe that this process of aging cannot be reversed in any other way than by changing the birth rates or increasing the birth rates of the domicile populations. Probably the most important argument in favor of migration is the fact of labor shortages, or let's say the shortages of workforce. This period of fast workforce decline has started, as was actually predicted by demographists, and probably will affect our economies or economic goals of all European states. Deficits at working age population have increased, especially at the bottom of professional ladder, and that is why we have this so-called low-skilled migration. So we need workers for low-skilled works because the most of indigenous people will try to work in high-skilled level works. The problem, of course, here is also that Eastern European pool of migrants, that is our region from which for decades people were going to the West and actually working on those low level skills works. This pool has dried up, especially in the case of Western Balkans. There are no anymore other people that can leave, or the numbers are not sufficient for any radical change. Here again, what is the solution? Maybe migrants could help in this case, but here is the projection of how many migrants you will have to call in or to invite by 2050 in order to keep the size of the working age population at 2010 level. And you can see that, for example, in the case of Hungary, you will need more than 2 million migrants in 2050 just to keep the same level of the working age population that you had in 2010. In the case of Poland, maybe you can find it, it's more than almost 8 million or 8 millions of migrants. So this will have, if happens, huge impact on the population composition and probably of the identity of the public square and public space in those countries. And the last part of my, so I'm not sure if this is the right path or the right solution to solve the problem. What is the solution? I cannot give you other answer than to have more children. It's quite simple like that. And the final question that I'm analyzing in my paper is the religious landscape in Europe. The situation is that I have only 2 minutes more, so I will do it in 1 minute. So that the Muslim share of the total population will increase anyway, with migrations or without migrations. You can see here that in the case of migration, without migration, it will be 8.4%. With migration, 10.2%. The second fact, yeah, that's it. The second fact is that the number of Christians will decline, and that is expected to decrease actually, and also the number of unaffiliated, as you can see there. Migration, and in specific international migration, has been perceived as a solution for demographic changes in Europe. So there is a suggestion that international migration could resolve the main demographic challenges. A few of them I just tackled for the prosperous European future. So those are low fertility, population aging, low mortality, declining working age population, and so forth. Immigration has not, unfortunately or fortunately, the potential to effectively resolve mentioned demographic challenges. Therefore, the endeavors should be focused on different models of supporting native population to increase the fertility rate. That would be the only effective solution for the economic growth. Those efforts should include the formulation of legal regulations that will increase fertility rates, and that would be the possible solution to resolve the problem of the demographic shift in the European countries. Migration is not, unfortunately, deus ex machina that can resolve demographic shift in the European Union and in the European states. Thank you so much for your attention.